Okay, let me go ahead and hit mute. All right, I'm finally starting to get this down after a month or two. So with that, I'm going to bring on Cindy Wright. We'll be reading from Chapter 80, Learn by Showing Respect and Listening. I think this is one of my favorite chapters. Cindy, are you there?
I am, Tracy. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wake Up Call. This is a really good chapter because I needed to read it myself. It's Chapter 80, Learn by Showing Respect and Listening. He said, communication experts tell us that as much as 85% of our learning comes from listening. It follows, then, that if people take their valuable time to give us instruction or advice, we should concentrate on listening and absorbing the information rather than talking. Sounds simple, right? Perhaps, but in my experience, this is easier said than done. He said, consider these two illustrations. The first one, he says, Harry calls me to kick around some ideas about his new business endeavor. He shares his thought process and asks me what I think. I begin to respond, but within 30 seconds, Harry takes over the conversation, giving me reasons why he made certain decisions. He goes on for the balance of the call. I finally get off the phone frustrated, thinking, here's a person who can't shut up and listen without monopolizing the conversation. The second scenario, he says, George, whom I never met, sends me an email requesting an appointment to talk about his sales strategy. I agree and block out 30 minutes. During our call, George tells me how he approaches his prospective customers and asks my advice on how he can be more effective. As I speak, he listens with great interest and asks a few follow-up questions. I get off the phone with George, finding myself impressed with someone I had never met because he listened intently and asked sensible questions at the appropriate time in the conversation. Now it's time for true confessions. Recently, I sought the advice of someone I respect in the publishing industry. He took time out from his busy schedule to help me make a decision. And when I did, what did I find myself doing? He said, talking too much, interjecting. I have become one of those people who drive me crazy. I hung up the phone, totally disappointed in myself. I began to interrogate myself, which I always do when I do things I shouldn't have done. Why did I feel the need to interrupt and comment? Did I feel that I needed to agree with his ideas by sharing a related story? Was it my ego? Did I feel defensive about the decisions I'd made so far? Or was I just excited to share my thoughts with someone I knew to be an expert in the field? He said, while I am not confident I know the exact answer, I am positive from this day forward that I'm going to zip it when people take their time to give me advice and grow. And so I think this is a good chapter, Tracy, because I'm not really very good at this. I mean, you know how you just like, okay, I have something to say, and, you know, I need to say this, so I'm just going to say it, and you know, whether I should or not. And I have to concentrate when I'm talking to someone, whether it's in person, on phone, on Zoom, whatever, and concentrate. Go, Cindy, shut up, listen, don't interrupt, you know. And I'm telling you, it's hard. It really is hard, especially when you're talking to someone that talks very slow. And you just want to, like, interject and speak for them. You know, like, oh, I know what you're going to say, so let me just go on and say it because I can say it a lot faster than you can say it. I'll let you give me your thoughts.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I love this chapter. Just a couple points I wanted to touch on. Number one, I know when people, you know, I do that. I try to interject, and I know when people do that to me and I'm trying to say something, more times out of not, they're getting it wrong what I was trying to say, and I find that disrespectful. I hate it, but I do that to other people. very wise man, long time ago, told me, Tracy, when you're talking, you're trying to show people how much you know, and when you're listening, you're learning. And so, I've really taken that to heart. But as I was sitting here and you were reading, Cindy, I started thinking about if I call someone or I ask someone for their opinion on something, when I have a really hard decision and I ask their opinion and then I start talking, really what I'm doing is not wanting their opinion. I'm wanting to give all my reasons for the decision that I made, and I'm wanting them to agree with my decision. I'm really not wanting their opinion. So maybe I need to ask myself, do I really want their opinion, or do I want them to just agree with the decision that I made? So that's why, as I was reading that chapter, I was thinking about that. And so it just really hit home with me, and thank you for reading it, and I'm going to throw it back to you for some final words.
Well, when I'm like talking to a friend who is telling me something about themselves, it's very easy for me to listen. Kirby will always say, you are the best listener with your friends. I think that's why a lot of people confide in me about a lot of things, because I listen. But when it's me wanting to get something, across to somebody, and that's when, and then they want to say something back, if I'm not finished saying what I want to say, I want to interject, hey, I'm still talking. I still want to get my point across. And so, there's always things to learn from it, but you do learn so much when you listen. And it's we have so many distractions today with, looking at our cell phone or just distractions around us, but mainly our cell phone. And it's so irritating. I mean, we did this chapter, I think last Monday, about the cell phone thing, but when you're just sitting with someone one-on-one and they look at their phone while you're talking instead of listening to you, and they start texting someone while you're talking to them. And it's like, anyway, so listening is just such an important part of a relationship with someone. And he said our challenge today, he said, how about you? Do you focus completely on what the speaker is saying, or do you find yourself talking more than listening when people are giving you advice? From this day forward, when it's time to learn, will you show respect and listen? Are you willing to join me in making this commitment? So, yeah, I'm willing to join him and focus more on listening and learning, especially when we're asking somebody's advice. Don't you always want to say, why did you ask me, if you don't even want to hear what I have to say? So anyway, it's a good chapter. He said at the very end, when it's time to learn, shut up and listen. Great words of advice. I'll give it to you to close out.
Amen. I really needed to hear that. I guess the challenge for this whole week, is let's just go out and see if we can learn more than we teach. Let's see if we can shut up a little bit. I'm speaking to myself, to nobody else, and see if we can just learn and listen to people and not be on our phones and look at them, listen with our body and our ears. And so with that, let's see how well we can do this week. I'm going to unmute and let everybody say goodbye.
Thank you.
Cool.
Good one. Good job.
There you go.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Good reminder for me.
Have a good week.
Thank you so much.